and we are starting off with, as Chucky said, Paranormal Activity, in which a young couple is dealing with paranormal activity. And they have a camera set up to try to capture this activity. Boyfriend's somewhat skeptical, but they try to figure out what's going on, and it's good stuff. This was released to quite a bit of hype. I still remember the trailers back back when this was released. It was sometimes touted as like one of the scariest movies ever made. It did pretty decent in theaters. And its budget is relatively low, so it made impressive gains. And it's probably, aside from the Blair Witch Project, I would say probably one of the most popular found footage movies. But it's just pointless though. Um, the movie, it's not like it's necessarily a bad movie. It does what you would expect it to do. It's occasionally dull and tedious, and this is just my opinion, but the boyfriend in the movie, Mika, which on a side note, I've never heard that name pronounced Mika before. I've always thought it was Micah, but that's just me. I think Mika was just a bit of a dick a lot of the time. I don't know, even once you get to the ending, like the shocking finale, I can see how maybe if you're in theaters, you sort of jump because something actually happens for once, but just, watching this, and I've seen this run before, and I didn't care much for it then. It just struck me as a by the numbers found footage, which it doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't wow me, it doesn't shock me, it doesn't particularly scare me. The whole thing is just very. There's like nothing there. Um, what do you think about this one?
I didn't see it in theaters, but I saw it shortly after when it came out, and when I first saw it, I thought it was decent. It was one of those movies where if you gave it the right amount of attention and you watched it in the right setting, with all the lights off and all that type of thing, and I think the scenes where you're hearing little noises in the background, sometimes it felt a little creepy at times, but I think the big thing is that over the past 10 years or so, the countless sequels and all the parody spoofs, spin-offs, or all these other things that have come or that have kind of stemmed from this movie has really probably damaged it. It's really hard now to enjoy it as much as people probably enjoyed it back then, just because of all these movies where they've just kind of sucked the life out of the whole idea. I think if they had kept this as a standalone movie, people would still probably think of it a little more highly than they probably do now.
Yeah, I would say that I would probably respect this. I would probably respect it just a bit more.
Yeah. It's clearly a very like cheaply made movie, which obviously made a fantastic amount of money. So it was definitely very successful, obviously because it's got all those sequels. But so in that aspect, you can say they really achieved well, I guess. But as a movie itself, it feels like it's. I don't know if it's just that, the setting, because the setting is pretty much, it just takes place in mainly just a bedroom and sometimes the scenes where they're downstairs, and that's pretty much it. Maybe there's one scene where they're outside in a
Yeah,
pool
they did
for a
go
minute.
outside once. It's pretty exciting stuff.
I mean, the one scene outside, you could remove it. It wouldn't have changed anything in the movie. It just feels like there's not a lot to it. So the only thing that really did anything for me was probably just those moments where you hear things in the background and you're like, oh, okay, there's something gonna happen here, and then, yeah. But like I said, with the ending, there's also an alternate ending, which I remember seeing way back when. I didn't watch the alternate ending again, but I think, spoiler alert, instead of the whole, just creepy smile thing, she kind of slits her throat on the camera, in front of the camera, which probably, for me, was better. Just, I don't know, because it seemed a little more shocking to happen, but
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know if that would make much of a difference to me. Um, like, I mean, she was sort of possessed anyway, so I mean, she's already sort of dead. So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well, so that's the it's I don't know if it was before or after, but we've seen so many times that type of similar type of ending. Whereas I'd rather just go for the pure shock value of someone, killing themselves in front of the camera just before the credits roll. But that's just me.
Yeah, so there are just three things I wanted to, I guess my three main talking points. By talking points, I mean my three small things I wanted to mention. One, one of the things about Mika, the boyfriend, which really bothered me throughout the movie, was that he kept berating the idea of his girlfriend calling a demonologist who was recommended to them earlier on. I think he said he wants to quote unquote take care of it himself. Um, and every time he goes on one of his macho, oh hey, I'll take care of it. I'm just confused by how he expects to deal with an invisible entity that he can't really fight. And it just, he can throw as much powder as he wants on the floor and he can get it, what his footprints look like. But, I mean, this guy just is way over his league and probably should have just called the demonologist from the beginning, like was recommended, might have gone over about it.
Well, yeah, he definitely. Well, he really had no plan. At the beginning, you can kind of understand because it's just a door moving a little bit and things like that, and you can be skeptical at that point as to whether or not something paranormal is actually happening, or is that just a door moving just because it's the way the house is built or something. I don't know, but once you start seeing things that are just unexplainable, at that point, some of it's been a few days since I watched it, so I'm struggling to think of exact scenes. But there's certain scenes where you can just say, okay, there's like some sort of ghost or demon in this fucking house.
Yeah, one of the scenes to me that actually stood out in the positive light was that scene in which he goes up to, crawl in the attic, the crawl space up there, and finds an old picture, of his girlfriend, back from, when the whole original house burned down. I mean, that's sort of like a creepy moment. It's suspenseful. You sort of expect him to maybe be attacked up there, but he just finds the picture and then everything's okay again.
Yeah, so I mean, when you start seeing things like that, you go, okay, now's probably a good time to call someone, not wait till the last 10 minutes and then have the guy say, oh well, I shouldn't be here.
Actually, and speaking of which, I was somewhat impressed by the fact that despite, they were recommended to call this demonologist, that guy never actually appeared in the movie. It's like, oh, he's out of the country, so I'm sorry, he can't come help you guys out.
Yeah,
I suspect, and maybe I'm wrong, but I sort of suspect that guy would appear in another movie, maybe in one of the sequels, but it just seems strange he's mentioned as many times and just never appears.
Have you seen any of the sequels?
I have not.
Okay. Well, I did see part 2 and 3 at the theaters. Part 2's not too bad from memory. Part 3 is and then, I was kind of done with the series at that point. I never thought any of them were like really good movies, but I thought the first one was decent at the time I first saw it, and decent enough to give the sequels a chance. But yeah, after part 3, I was kind of like, this idea is just it's run its course, and of course, and they still make another 2-3 movies after that. So
Yeah. That's the Japanese spin-off. That's good stuff.
mm.
There was one other scene I wanted to mention as another kudos to the movie, being the Ouija board scene, where just the camera's on the Ouija board after they leave, and does a few things, and I just thought sort of I thought it was a pretty decent scene. Some ghostly fires, some solid stuff. I think that's all the positive things I have to say though.
Yeah, it's found footage. I mean, it doesn't take a lot, or it doesn't take nearly as much to make a found footage movie as a traditional type movie. But it was okay.
I mean, that's despite my rather lukewarm opinions on this movie, I do think there's some legitimately good found footage movies out there, even comparable to, I guess you could say, quote unquote, normal non found footage movies.
Mm.
I think I'm probably a big a fan of found footage movies in Europe based on the ones that we've spoken about.
Yeah, well, like I said, I don't see myself giving any found footage movie more than a 7 or 8 out of 10 max. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm happy for one to come along and prove me wrong, but I just, yeah, the things that I value in a movie can't all be present in a found footage movie from what I've seen.
It's the movie is it's just generic found footage movie number 16. I mean, I know this is one of the first big ones, and it probably started the majority of the things that you would expect from a found footage movie. So certainly it did it age well, which is pretty much what Chucky said. And I'm just pretty unimpressed by most of it. Uh, The characters are okay aside from the boyfriend, and unfortunately he's like half the character, so it's difficult. So yeah, I'm giving this one a 4 out of 10. I didn't like it the first time I saw it, and I definitely didn't care for it when I saw it just a couple of days ago. Luckily, I'm probably never going to see it again, so
Alrighty then.
aim before 8.
Yeah. No, 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 no. I don't think it's as bad as what. I mean, I certainly wouldn't give it a 4 out of 10. I, I'll give it a 6. I still think it's okay, and given the right viewing experience, like I said, if you're watching it late at night, you got all the lights off, and you're not distracted with any other noises in your house, you can purely focus on those little things in the movie where you hear like footsteps while they're sleeping and things like that. Sometimes that can be a little creepy, at least the first time I watched it. And yeah, I don't have any huge issues with the movie, but at the same time I don't see it being all that entertaining. But I mean, Katie had a decent pair of tits, so at least I can give it a point for that.
Yes.